Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The clock read 3:14 a.m. Rain scratched gently at the window panes. The room was still, warm, familiar, until she turned in her sleep and whispered the name. Trevor, not mine. Not even close. I did not move. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, pulse steady, chest hollow. Her breath was soft, her face peaceful. My wife of 10 years. The woman I defended with my life. The woman who had clung to me at airports, kissed me like she would die without me. Now she was dreaming of someone else. And she said his name like a secret prayer. In that moment, I felt something tear inside me. Not loud, not sudden. It was a silent unraveling, like a rope snapping strand by strand. I was trained to kill, to dismantle threats. But what do you do when the threat sleeps beside you in silk sheets? I rose from the bed slowly, not making a sound. Walked to the living room and stood in the dark, hands shaking just once before I clenched them to stone. Trevor. Who the hell was Trevor? And more importantly, how long had she been lying to me? I had spent months in deserts and jungles, dodging death, defending my country. I had fought men who did not value life, who would kill without blinking. And yet, none of them had ever made me feel this helpless. She rolled over upstairs. A soft moan escaped her lips. I heard it, and it made my stomach turn. I knew what I had to do. I would not scream. I would not cry. I would observe, document, confirm. Because when you are a Navy SEAL, you do not go off emotion. You go off mission. And starting that night, my mission was simple: find out everything. Watch her destroy herself. I walked back to the bedroom, slid under the covers. She reached for me in her sleep like nothing had happened. I did not touch her back. She had already left me. She just did not know it yet. Wait. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about trust, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to support the channel, and subscribe if you never want to miss another jaw-dropping tale. We drop new stories every week that'll leave you speechless. To everyone who's already subscribed, sending you heartfelt love and thanks. Join the family, because here, every story hits different. Now, let's dive back into the story. 3 days later, I stood in my garage cleaning my rifle, not because I needed to, but because it calmed my nerves. The smell of gun oil, the metallic click of moving parts. It reminded me of a place where things made sense. In combat, lies get you killed. At home, they rot you from within. Her behavior had not changed. She still smiled in the mornings. Still wore that perfume I had bought her from Prague. Still kissed me goodbye when she left for work. But now I watched. Closely. I logged her arrival times. Matched them against traffic data. Used a tracker app one installed on her phone while she showered. No hesitation. No guilt. She forfeited honesty when she brought another man's name into our bed. That night, I dug through our home office. Old receipts. Travel itineraries. Digital backups. And then I found it. Folded into a book she never read. A crumpled receipt from the Holden Hotel, time-stamped 11:42 p.m. 2 cocktails. 1 room. 1 signature, Lacey R. I stared at the paper as my throat tightened. She was not even careful. I scanned the security cams, the ones outside. Nothing helpful. Then I remembered the hallway unit. An old nanny cam we never took down after our goddaughter's last visit. I opened the archive. Fast forward. There. 5:12 a.m. 2 weeks ago. She crept in wearing heels, mascara smudged, hair messy in that way no wind causes. She tiptoed inside, unaware of the blinking red light behind her. Then came the worst part. She smiled. To herself. That kind of post-sin grin people wear when they think no one is watching. When they think they have gotten away with it. I watched her walk up the stairs. Paused the footage. Poured a glass of water. And felt nothing. That was the dangerous part. I did not feel rage. Or sadness. I felt precise, focused, because now I was not a husband. I was a soldier again. People used to say we were the model couple. At church, at cookouts, at fundraisers. Lacey would always grip my arm and beam at strangers like I was her everything. I was just her cover. I started noticing things after that night. The way she angled her phone away while texting. The shift in her voice when I entered a room mid-call. The extra workouts. The sudden love for new lingerie she never wore with me. Lacey had become a stranger. A good one. Trained. Methodical. She had woven lies into her day-to-day like thread into fabric. But I had been trained by professionals. Spies. Analysts. Interrogators. I had learned how to pick apart deception under fire. And Lacey? She left fingerprints all over her betrayal. On Friday, she said she was headed to a branding summit. Her bag was full of high heels and false smiles. I kissed her goodbye at the door, smiled back, told her to be safe. As soon as she left, I booted up the GPS mirror from her phone. She never even changed the password. The pin blinked downtown. Not the conference center, but the Holden. Again, my jaw clenched. I screenshotted the map, saved it, time-stamped everything. Then I picked up her tablet, synced her messages, screenshots, videos, files. She was not just cheating. She was documenting it like a damn influencer. Photos of her in hotel mirrors. Messages from T, telling her how good she looked naked and married. Disgust twisted my stomach into a knot. Still, I said nothing. I copied everything to a private server, changed the passwords, locked down finances, froze the home equity line, and booked a consultation with a lawyer. Not because I was leaving, but because when this blew up, I wanted the entire blast to hit her. I was going to let her dig her own grave. And when she was done, I would be the one handing her the shovel. She came back Sunday night. Not a scratch on her. Not a single smudge out of place. She walked through that door with her tote bag slung over one shoulder, coffee in hand, acting like she had returned from saving the world. "Hey, babe," she said, smiling like nothing was broken. "Miss me?" I nodded. "Of course." She leaned in to kiss me. I let her. Her lips were soft, familiar, practiced. But I felt none of it. She may have been home in body, but her soul? It stayed back at the Holden with Trevor. I watched her over dinner. Her eyes darted more than usual. Her voice had a higher pitch. And when she told me about the branding panel she spoke at, she mentioned a keynote speaker who, according to a simple web search, was never at the event. Lie. After lie. After lie. And still she smiled. Still she laughed at my jokes. Still she reached for my hand across the table like we were something real. I smiled back, held her hand, played the part. But inside, I was rewiring my entire life around the truth. I began planting breadcrumbs. I asked innocent questions. "So what hotel did they put you up in?" Her pause was half a second too long. "The Radford," she replied. Wrong. That hotel had been closed for renovations for 3 months. She had not even prepared the lies well. That insulted me more than the betrayal. Later that night, she showered while humming. I sat in the bedroom, the lights off, phone in hand, watching a muted video of her and Trevor in the hotel hallway. She was smiling in it. The kind of smile she used to give me when we were still real. And now she was giving it to a man who wore too much cologne and walked like he owned something. I muted the video. The water stopped. She stepped out wrapped in a towel and smiled again. That night, she slept like a baby, and I laid beside her, wide awake. Planning. You would expect it to be something obvious. Lipstick on a collar. A strange number in her call log. A hotel keycard left in a purse. But it was a simple spreadsheet that did her in. She had left her work laptop open on the kitchen counter. I had never touched her things before. But that morning, while she was out for a client brunch, I opened it. It was a branding report. Normal at first glance. But one folder caught my eye, buried inside her download cache. A file titled, Workout Calendar _ March. I clicked. Inside were screenshots. Dozens. Mostly of her and Trevor. Him lifting weights. Her posing beside him, gym selfies, flexed biceps, smirks in the mirror. Most were innocent enough, until I hit one that made my chest tighten. A photo of her straddling him in a dimly lit room, his face pressed against her neck, her eyes closed. The caption read, "Next time, no rush." "He's gone for 2 weeks, winky face." I stared at that screen for a full minute. No blinking, no shaking. Then I emailed the file to myself, backed up her hard drive to an encrypted folder, planted tracking software on her cloud account. I was going to build a digital portfolio of her collapse. It was no longer about heartbreak. This was about documentation. I called my lawyer that afternoon and asked about asset protection protocols. The conversation was cold, clinical, but necessary. He asked, "Do you want to divorce her now or wait until it burns her publicly?" I answered, "I want to wait until the fire is big enough to see from orbit." That night, Lacey asked if I wanted to try a new restaurant for our anniversary. She looked so casual about it, like everything was still intact, like nothing had happened. I said yes. I even made the reservation myself, because when the time came, I wanted a front row seat for when the world she built on lies finally imploded. It was an old nanny cam, long forgotten, mounted behind a bookshelf. A small black circle with a blinking light no one ever noticed. I had installed it 3 years ago when we were babysitting my goddaughter. I never took it down. That camera became my weapon. I retrieved the SD card and fed it into my laptop. The footage was grainy but sharp enough. I scrolled through weeks of footage in silence, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing until I saw it. April 8th, 5:17 a.m. She entered through the side door, barefoot, holding her heels, hair in a lazy bun. Her dress had wrinkles that only come from being pressed against another body. She tiptoed past the living room, checking her phone. Then came the moment. She paused in the hallway, smiled, and took a selfie. I stared at the frozen frame. Her smile, that quiet pride in her eyes. The moment you know you are getting away with something and think the universe will not notice. But the universe noticed. I did. She had no idea that same hallway, that same wall, would one day be used to ruin her. I copied the file, saved backups in 3 separate locations. Then I rewound the footage further. More mornings like that. Always before sunrise. Always entering from the side. She never once looked up at the camera. That made it perfect. Undeniable. Time-stamped. Real. No story she told could rewrite those frames. I sat back in my chair, breathing slow. This was not about catching her anymore. This was about choosing when and how to bring it all down. Because the truth was not just a blade. It was a bomb. And I was holding the detonator. The following night, she stood at the kitchen counter, humming as she chopped cherry tomatoes. Her voice had a softness I used to love. Now it grated. "Dinner in 20, she said cheerfully. "You want red or white?" I glanced up from the couch. "Red." She smiled, still slicing, like nothing was broken. Her hair was in a loose braid. She wore that deep green blouse, the one I bought her in New Orleans on our 5th anniversary. She had told me it made her feel dangerous and delicate. I used to think that was poetic. Now I saw it for what it was. A warning. I walked to the fridge, pulled out the bottle, uncorked it, and poured. My hands were steady. Always steady. That was the only way I knew I had not cracked yet. As we sat down to eat, she reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. "I missed you this week," she said. "You've been distant." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Just tired." She tilted her head, studied me like she was trying to read something behind my eyes. "Work stuff?" I gave her the smile I learned in interrogation training. The kind that looked warm but gave away nothing. Something like that. She relaxed again, picked up her fork, and went back to her salad. That was the moment it really hit me. She had no idea. Not even a flicker of suspicion. I was sitting across from her with 3 terabytes of damning data, with surveillance footage, GPS logs, and a sealed envelope in my safe containing her entire digital affair, and she still believed I was in the dark. She had mistaken my silence for ignorance. She would learn soon that silence was not the absence of understanding. It was the preparation of judgment. There is a unique kind of restraint that comes from military training. The ability to hold a loaded weapon in your hand and wait. Wait for orders. Wait for the perfect shot. Wait for the moment that matters. That is how I lived the next 2 weeks. Each morning, I made her coffee, just how she liked it. Oat milk, a splash of cinnamon, exactly 1 sugar. She would kiss me on the cheek and thank me, then walk out that door and vanish into her double life. I would go to the garage, sit at my workstation, analyze her digital footprint. She was not even cautious anymore. Her texts to Trevor were lazy, sloppy, room's ready, same one as last time. God, you were so good last night. I can still feel you. He has no clue. It's almost sad. Almost. She started lying for sport. Fake appointments. Yoga classes she never attended. Friends she never met. Her stories folded over themselves like bad origami. I tracked her phone, plotted her location each day on a digital map. Red dots lit up at the Holden Hotel, 2 towns over. I never confronted her. That would have given her control. Instead, I collected, cataloged. I wanted every frame, every message, every hotel charge to stack so high it could crush her from above. Then came the biggest mistake she could have made. She left her laptop open again, this time on a Zoom call. It was muted, camera off, but the chat window was still open. Trevor, he leaves again this month. Lacey, yup. I'm moving the flash drive this weekend. You'll get everything. We cash out. Then I vanish. I reread it 3 times. Flash drive, cash out, vanish. She was not just betraying me. She was about to sell me out. That was when everything changed. I opened the safe in our closet that night. It had always been our shared secure spot. Passports, emergency cash, old photos, and 1 flash drive I kept from my last deployment. It was supposed to be encrypted and obsolete. Except it was not. It contained high-level communications logs, tactical maps, unfinished reports never meant to leave military servers. I had stored them temporarily when my base system crashed, intending to return them during my last debrief. But I had forgotten. She had found them, and now she was handing them to a stranger who lifted dumbbells for a living and thought he could dance with fire. I felt cold air fill my lungs as I stood in that walk-in closet. Her perfume still lingered in the air, sweet, musky, floral. That same scent had been on the hotel room pillows. I took the flash drive, plugged it into my workstation. The files were untouched, for now, but the timestamp showed recent access. 27 hours ago. She had copied them. That was no longer infidelity. That was a national security breach. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my old contacts, and tapped one I had not used in years. David Vega, now at Cyber Intel. He answered on the second ring. Briggs, he said. Did not expect to hear from you. I have a situation, I said quietly. It involves data, theft, and someone trying to sell intel. There was a pause. Then Vega's voice dropped an octave. Is this military? Worse, I replied. It's personal. Another pause. Send me everything. We'll handle it. I hung up, then turned off the lights, and walked into the living room where she sat watching a rom-com, barefoot, legs tucked under her. She looked up and smiled. What took you so long? I smiled back. Just tying up loose ends. After my call with Vega, the shift was permanent. This was no longer just a marriage ending. It was an active operation. I started building my own surveillance net. Clean, silent, undetectable. I upgraded the old hallway cam and installed 2 new ones. One in the air vent above the living room, another hidden behind the bookshelf near the dining table. Both were synced directly to my private server. Her phone was already cloned. Every incoming message, email, photo, it all landed on my screen within seconds of her seeing it. I tracked her calendar. She had lunch meetings, Pilates classes, and branding consults every other day now. All carefully color-coded. All lies. Tuesday afternoon, she texted Trevor, 12 p.m. Room 618. Same hotel. I pinged the GPS. The Holden Hotel again. At 11:45 a.m., I was parked 2 buildings down in a nondescript rental car, wearing sunglasses and watching through a telephoto lens. She arrived in a charcoal coat and thigh-high boots. Casual, confident. He met her outside the lobby. They laughed, hugged, kissed. Her hands ran through his hair like it was routine, and then they disappeared inside. I did not blink. Not once. I captured every second. I had facial recognition data on both of them. Timestamps. IP logs from the hotel Wi-Fi. Yes, I had cracked that too. I even had an audio clip from her phone's microphone of them discussing the drop. The flash drive's in the bottom drawer. He keeps a lot of files there. How do you know he will not check? He never touches it. He still trusts me. That line stopped me. Not because it was wrong, but because she believed it. She truly thought I was still the same man who kissed her goodbye without question. The man who made her breakfast, who trusted her laugh, her hands, her body. She was wrong. The man she betrayed had died the night she said Trevor's name. The one left behind? He was building her downfall. The next morning, she stood in the kitchen, dressed in yoga pants, her hair in a ponytail. She was making a smoothie, acting like nothing had happened. Want one? She asked. I shook my head. Already ate. She smiled. You are up early these days. I shrugged. Work stuff. She walked over, leaned in, kissed my cheek. You have been off lately, she said. Are we okay? I looked at her, held that gaze longer than usual, studied the face I had once traced with my fingers at night, memorizing every angle like it was scripture. She tilted her head. Colton. I nodded. We are okay. Lie for lie. Later that day, she sent Trevor a voice message. I intercepted it before he did. I think he knows something. He is acting weird. I am going to try and keep him distracted this weekend. Make sure everything stays quiet until next week. So now I was a distraction. Good. Let her try. That weekend, she planned a dinner for just us. Candles, wine, jazz playing through the speakers. She wore that black silk dress she always said was for special nights. She moved through the room like it was a performance. It was. She poured me wine. Her voice soft, sweet. Her laughter forced in the corners. At one point, she reached across the table and touched my hand. I know things have been tense, but I love you, Colton. I really do. It was almost convincing. Almost. I looked her right in the eyes. I believe you, I said. She smiled. A tear glistened on her lower lid, like she had somehow convinced even herself of the lie. But behind my back, I had already contacted my lawyer. I had already hired a private forensic team. I had already prepared the package for the feds. She thought I was eating her lasagna because I loved her. I was eating it because I wanted to remember the last meal before everything she knew crumbled. She left the house at 6:13 p.m. the next evening. Said she was heading to a new branding workshop downtown. I tracked her as she turned off the freeway 2 exits early, took a detour past the park, then looped around to the same hotel. Different room this time. Room 806. I watched from the cafe across the street. Laptop open, headphones in, pretending to work. But my eyes were on the entrance. She entered wearing oversized sunglasses and a camel trench coat. No luggage. No laptop. No workshop. I sipped my coffee. At 7:25 p.m., Trevor arrived. Baseball cap, hoodie, trying to stay low profile. Not that it mattered. I already had him photographed from 6 different angles. They stayed in that room for 2 hours. When she returned home that night, she looked tired but radiant. Her eyes had that post-deed gloss, the faint glow of someone who thought they got away with it. She walked in, kissed me on the cheek, and dropped her keys on the counter. Long night? I asked. She exhaled dramatically. You have no idea. That workshop was brutal. I nodded, took a sip of water, and looked her dead in the eyes. You ever stay in room 806 before? She froze, just for a second, then smiled. What? I shook my head. Nothing. Just sounded familiar. She laughed, too fast. Nope. Never heard of it. I turned back to the TV, pretending to let it go. But in that 1 second of silence, that momentary hesitation, her entire house of lies trembled. She did not know it yet, But the war had already begun, and I was not fighting for forgiveness. I was preparing for the final strike. The next morning, I went straight to the closet. The flash drive was gone. The drawer I always kept locked had been opened. Not forced, just unlocked. Quietly. Precisely. It was a detail that most people would overlook. But I had spent enough time in foreign safe houses to notice the slightest displacement. The pattern of dust had shifted. The drawer slid too smoothly. She had been in here. I checked my system logs. At 2:41 a.m., the hallway camera caught movement. Night vision activated. There she was, in her robe, creeping past the bedroom, straight into the closet. 2 minutes later, she walked out with her phone in one hand and the flash drive in the other. She smiled. Not a happy smile. A private one. The kind you give yourself when you think the world is sleeping. I watched the clip 3 times, rage pacing inside my chest like a caged animal. But I stayed quiet. That afternoon, I called Vega again. She touched it. I told him. He replied instantly. Then she is officially in the chain of compromise. We need her watched and isolated. If that data leaks, it will not just destroy her. It will get people killed. I asked, what happens if she moves it to someone else? You intercept, and we make it disappear. Click. I stared out the window. Birds chirped. Wind blew calmly through the trees. Everything looked normal, but everything was on fire. I was on the back porch when her phone buzzed. She was upstairs in the shower. I picked it up. Face ID still worked. She had not even changed it. It was a call from a contact named T.W. Trevor. I answered silently and held it to my ear. His voice came through, low and eager. Hey, babe. I got the drive. Files are clean. Military grade. Your boy is sitting on gold and does not even know it. I said nothing. He kept talking. Listen, I know you are nervous. But after this last drop, we are set. I moved the files to the buyer, cleaned the crypto, and we vanish. You and me. Fresh start. Just hold tight for 48 hours, all right? Still, I said nothing. Then he laughed. You are quiet tonight, Lace. You okay? I leaned forward and whispered one word. No, the line went dead. Seconds later, I heard the water stop upstairs. She came down wrapped in a towel, smiling. Who was that? I looked at her. Cold. Wrong number. She shrugged and walked past me into the kitchen. But her phone? I placed it gently on the table. Face down. Inside it, every message was already backed up to my server. Every call was tagged. Every file forwarded. She thought she was living 2 lives. She was wrong. She was living 1 life. And it was already over. I sat in the dark that night, watching the screen. Every message from Trevor was now laid out in order. Timelines. Attachments. Cryptocurrency wallets. Transaction dates. Even the offshore storage server he used to upload stolen data. Vega's team was already shadowing him. But now we had everything. They were not just planning to escape with money. They were about to commit espionage. Treason. And Lacey? She was neck deep in it. Whether she understood the full scope or not, it did not matter anymore. She had crossed the line. Twice. Once as a wife. And once as a citizen. The room was quiet except for the soft whir of the server drive spinning. I leaned back in my chair and stared at her photo, one from 2 years ago, taken in our backyard. Sunlight in her hair. A real smile. Or what I thought was real. I barely recognized her now. The woman upstairs was not the same person. That woman had become a weapon pointed directly at my legacy. And I had been sleeping beside her while she pulled the trigger. At 3:22 a.m., I received a message from Vega. Final op scheduled. 48 hours. Stay silent. No direct move. Let her make the drop. I closed the laptop. She stirred upstairs, shifting in bed. I walked into the bathroom and stared at my reflection. For a second, I saw the man I used to be. Then I blinked and saw who I had become. The next morning, Lacey stood in front of the bathroom mirror, curling her hair, humming softly, scrolling her phone with her other hand. She was glowing. She believed everything was still in her control. That made her dangerous. A liar in love is one thing, but a liar who feels safe is a ticking bomb. I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. Big meeting today? She glanced at me through the mirror. Client onboarding. That crypto startup I told you about. Crypto. I nodded slowly. You excited? She smiled. Biggest one yet. If it works, we'll be set for a while. Might even take that trip you keep talking about. I almost laughed. She was pitching a future using blood money. Using my resources. Using me. But I kept the smile on my face. Sounds perfect. She kissed me lightly. Wish me luck. I did not say anything, because her luck had already run out. That evening, she made dinner. Steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. A meal I used to love. But everything on that plate now felt artificial. Forced. She set the table with candles. Real ones, not the fake LED kind she used during her influencer shoots. She was trying to be a wife, trying to hold on. But I had already buried the woman she once was. This was just performance now. Halfway through dinner, she leaned forward. Colton, I need to ask you something. I set my fork down slow. Go ahead. Are you okay? Like, really okay? You've been distant. Cold, almost. I held her gaze for just a second too long. Do you want the truth? She froze. Yes, of course. I've been seeing someone. The silence hit like a hammer. Her face cracked, not from rage, but shock. It was not real pain. It was ego. She did not expect to be on the other side of betrayal. Who? She whispered. I smirked. Truth is, she knows everything about me. She watches you more than I do. She records everything you say. I leaned closer. Her name is Karma. Her lip trembled. She did not say a word. And I went back to eating, calm as the eye of a storm. The next morning, I pulled the trigger. Not a gun. A message. I told her I had been called to DC for a last-minute security consult. A standard government op, 2 nights max. She nodded, not even pretending to be surprised. Back by Friday, she asked, checking her phone. I smiled. Latest. She kissed me goodbye at the door like a wife sending off her hero. By noon, I was parked 5 miles away in a dark SUV, monitoring her phone, laptop, and cloud sync in real time. She made 3 calls after I left. Trevor, he's gone. We're clear. Unknown number. Final copy is secured. I'll bring the files tomorrow. Private courier. Pickup confirmed for 9 a.m. Thursday. She was not wasting time. She had been waiting for this exit. My exit. She uploaded the files at 6:02 p.m. to a shared cloud folder labeled Visionary Brand Decks. But embedded in those presentation files were military-grade comm logs and encryption protocols. Intel that, if leaked, would start a global domino effect. I alerted Vega. Me. Drop confirmed. Time to lock it down. Vega. We're in motion. No contact until green light. I turned off the burner phone and watched. She ordered sushi, poured herself a glass of wine, put on a face mask, and curled up on the couch watching some trashy reality show like it was any other Wednesday night. She had no clue, none, that her front door would be kicked in within 48 hours. That everything she built, the clients, the lies, the money, the man, would be torn down brick by brick. She thought she was playing chess, but I was already 10 moves ahead, and her king was boxed in. I sat in the dark, lit only by the soft glow of my surveillance monitors. The footage from the living room cam played on one screen. Her laptop screen mirrored on another. Her phone activity pulsed in real time, calls, texts, file movements. Everything. Thursday, 8:42 a.m. She was pacing the hallway in a beige coat, makeup light but deliberate. She looked composed, almost elegant, like a woman preparing to pitch a dream, not betray a country. At 8:56, the courier arrived. Middle-aged, baseball cap, sunglasses. He said nothing as she handed him the envelope, slim, sealed, and deadly. Time-sensitive, she said. He nodded and left. I had tagged the courier's license plate the night before. Vega's team intercepted him 4 blocks away. No noise. No confrontation. Just quiet disappearance. The files never reached the black market buyer. But Lacey thought they did. She texted Trevor immediately. It's done. We're free. Free. She thought this was freedom. I leaned back in my seat, jaw tight. She was dancing on ashes and thinking it was fresh snow. Friday morning. She wore a white blouse tucked into high-waisted jeans. Her look was casual, but purposeful. She made a green smoothie, posted a filtered selfie to her story with the caption, New Beginnings. Hashtag Power Moves, and sat down to edit content for a podcast she would never publish. At 9:14 a.m., the knock came. 3 short raps on the front door. She looked confused at first. Curious. She opened the door smiling. 4 agents stood there. 2 men, 2 women, all plain clothes but unmistakable. One of them showed a badge. Lacey Briggs, he said. Her smile faltered. Yes. We need you to come with us. What is this about? Espionage. Conspiracy to commit data theft. Possession of federal property. She laughed. A confused, trembling sound. You have the wrong person. I am just a marketing consultant. They stepped in. No, ma'am, the agent said. You're not. I watched from my vehicle 2 blocks away as she was let out in cuffs. She turned her head, scanning the street, eyes frantic. And in that split second, our eyes met. Her face changed. Shock. Then betrayal. Then a question. How could you? But the real question was, how could she? Major twist. Everything Trevor did was part of a deeper setup. She was not the mastermind. She was the pawn. Vega called me that night. His voice was low, tense. We processed Trevor's comms. There is more to this. I sat up straight. Go on. He's not just some gym rat. Real name's not even Trevor Monroe. It's Thomas Warwick. Former freelance asset. He worked peripherally with foreign defense contractors. Contractors? Specifically, the kind who bribe insiders for sensitive logistics. I went silent. Your wife was a mark, Colton, Vega said. He targeted her to get to you. Your security clearance. Your data. Everything spun. All those texts. All those nights. All the manipulation. The timing of their first meeting at her gym. Her sudden obsession with privacy software. It was all planted. Crafted. He never loved her. He used her to extract me. And she walked right into it, blinded by the thrill of being desired. She's not smart enough to build this herself, Vega continued. But she was willing. I hung up, stood there in the dark. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel fury. I felt pity. She thought she was playing a love game. But she was not even a player. She was the board. And now, the game was mine to finish. The interrogation video played on Vega's monitor. Lacey sat in the cold federal interview room, hands clasped tightly, face pale but composed. She wore the same outfit from her arrest, a wrinkled white blouse, makeup faded and streaked. The confidence she once radiated was gone. All that remained was confusion and the sharp sting of realization. I did not know, she whispered. I thought he loved me. The agent across from her did not blink. Did you ever ask what he did for a living? He told me he ran a startup, she said, voice cracking. I never questioned it. Her eyes flicked toward the camera for just a second, as if she could see me watching. I leaned closer to the screen. She had truly believed she was safe in his arms. That seduction was love. That flattery was truth. Trevor, Thomas Warwick, had studied her, picked her from 100 possible targets. And she had walked straight into it, guided by the promise of danger disguised as romance. She had been the weakest link. And through her, they had tried to get to me. Vega paused the video. She is telling the truth about one thing, he said. She did not know who he really was. But that does not make her innocent. No, I said flatly. It makes her careless. And reckless. And deadly. He looked at me. What do you want to do? I stared at the screen for another moment, then stood up. Finish it. I flew to DC the next morning. Vega's team had located the final transfer node, a proxy server in the Cayman Islands, disguised under a cryptocurrency trading firm. The stolen data was already uploaded, but the transaction had been frozen just in time. The buyer? Still unnamed. Still out there. But the money trail led us back to a small crypto wallet created under a fake alias 2 weeks ago. The alias? L. Rayner. Lacey's maiden name. She had set up the wallet for the drop. The betrayal was now inked in blockchain, time-stamped, traceable, permanent. Vega looked at me across the operations table. We have got everything. The files, the transfers, the hotel logs. It is airtight. I nodded slowly. He paused. Colton, she is still under review. No formal charges yet. She is cooperating. I leaned forward. She cooperated with a foreign agent. She claims she did not know. She claims a lot of things. We stared at each other for a beat. Then I stood, grabbed the file from the table, and walked toward the exit. Vega called after me. What are you going to do now? I turned just enough to respond. Make her watch it all burn. 2 nights later, I returned home. Lacey had been released under surveillance. No passport. No contact with Trevor, who had officially disappeared into federal custody. The house was quiet. Still. Too still. She was on the couch when I walked in, wearing an old hoodie and sweats, hair unwashed, face drawn. The confident woman who once dictated boardrooms and flirted in hotel lobbies was now sitting in her own wreckage. Her eyes met mine like a child caught stealing. Colton, she whispered. You are back. I dropped my duffel at the door and stepped inside. She stood, took a hesitant step forward. I swear to God, I did not know. He lied to me. He told me we were just going to build something new. I never meant to hurt you. I never. You stole classified data, I said, cutting her off. You copied files that were never meant to exist outside a secured network. And you handed them to a man who made a living selling secrets to the highest bidder. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought it was nothing. Just documents. He said it was harmless. Just insurance. You thought wrong. She reached out, hand trembling. I just wanted to be seen. I stepped back. You were seen. You were trusted. You were loved. And you sold all of that for attention and adrenaline. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. But I did not go to her. I could not. Because the woman I once came home to no longer existed. I was not looking at my wife. I was looking at the final phase of a threat profile. And I had one last mission. I stayed silent for days. I moved through the house like a ghost in my own skin, present, but untouchable. I ate dinner across from her, listened to her excuses, nodded at her apologies, and offered nothing in return. She tried. God, she tried. She cooked. She cleaned. She cried at night when she thought I was asleep. But she never asked the right questions. Never asked what I knew, only what I believed. And I believed everything was calculated. Every touch, every word, every text from Trevor that started with "He'll never find out." They were rehearsed lines in a show she directed. I was no longer part of her script. I was the editor. I began planning the reveal. Not a fight. Not a public screaming match. I wanted the truth to be laid bare, quietly, devastatingly, and with witnesses. First, I met with my attorney. I want a no-contest divorce, full asset protection, and I want her out of the house the moment this goes down. He nodded. Do you have proof? I slid a drive across his desk. More than proof. I have her story frame by frame. Second, I contacted her clients. Not directly. Anonymously. I leaked a few accidental screenshots, emails between Lacey and Trevor, the fake crypto business tied to offshore data laundering. Nothing illegal shared, just enough to raise questions. Within 48 hours, one brand paused their campaign. Another unfollowed her completely. The cracks were forming. I just had to wait for the collapse. Every night after she went to bed, I stayed up in the office, scrolling through the same evidence. Not because I needed to, but because it grounded me. Each file reminded me, this was not a dream. It was real. She had chosen this. I built a timeline from the first message to the final transaction. April 3rd, first text to Trevor. April 17th, first hotel room. May 1st, data theft. May 12th, final courier drop. Each date had a folder. Each folder had images, voice memos, receipts, video clips. I renamed them all chronologically, numbered, labeled. Then I uploaded everything to a hidden site, password protected, non-indexed, invitation only. I was going to make the confrontation public, but not through rage, through exposure, like a documentary. Every time she smiled at me, I remembered the messages. I can't believe how easy this is. He still makes me coffee like nothing's changed. I almost feel bad. Almost. Almost. That word played on a loop in my head. She almost felt bad, but not enough to stop, not enough to tell the truth. And now, I had enough evidence to bury her career, her reputation, and every lie she ever told. I was not going to scream. I was going to present. She had a company banquet coming up, a quarterly client mixer at a downtown rooftop venue. Exclusive invite list. Key sponsors. Her biggest clients would be there, including the new wellness brand she had been trying to land for 6 months. I saw the perfect opportunity. I called her boss directly. He answered on the second ring. "This is Marcus." "This is Colton Briggs," I said calmly. "Lacey's husband." A pause. "I know of you. Everything all right. I believe you will want to be present when I show her clients who she really is. I will not make a scene, but the truth deserves to be seen. You will receive a link tonight. Open it, or do not. That part is your choice." Then I hung up. I sent him the drive link with a note. Start with April 17th. She lied to more than just me. The next day, Lacey walked through the house on the phone, giddy. "Yes, Marcus confirmed the entire brand team will be there. It's a perfect pitch opportunity." Perfect. She slipped into her office, still talking, still building a life on splinters. Meanwhile, I adjusted the file permissions, scheduled the live link, and embedded the playlist into a looping presentation that would auto-play on arrival. No dramatic music, no voiceover, just raw footage. Unfiltered, undeniable. On Friday night, her career would die, and she would not even see the knife coming. The banquet night arrived. Lacey stood in front of the mirror, slipping diamond studs into her ears. Her lips were painted deep red, her dress a sleek navy blue slit gown she had saved for the right occasion. She turned and looked at me, smiling with that same old charm she had once used to seduce, now unknowingly wearing it to her own execution. "How do I look?" she asked. I met her eyes. "Like you are about to make history." She laughed, not catching the edge in my voice. "Wish me luck." I kissed her cheek. "You will need it." The car ride downtown was quiet. She scrolled through her speech notes. I scrolled through my phone, checking the scheduled playlist link one last time. Synced. Set to autoplay at exactly 8 p.m. on the venue's main screen. We arrived at the rooftop lounge, lights glittering across the skyline, champagne flutes circulating, music humming in the background. Lacey greeted people like a queen returning to her court. Clients, followers, sponsors, they surrounded her with smiles and compliments. She kissed cheeks and dropped brand names. Her mask was flawless. But masks do not survive explosions. At 7:59, I excused myself to the back wall, near the media control booth. I handed the AV manager a flash drive and simply said, "Play it at 8. The client will understand." He nodded. The clock ticked. Lacey stood center stage, holding a microphone. She began her speech with the same lines I had heard her rehearse for days. This brand was built on honesty, on authenticity. The screen behind her flickered. The crowd turned as the large display screen behind Lacey changed. The branding logo vanished, and a video began. No warning, no explanation. First, a hotel hallway, grainy but clear. Lacey in heels, laughing, kissing Trevor outside room 618. Gasps swept through the audience. She froze mid-sentence. What is this?" Second clip, a text thread. Her messages. Screenshots. Time-stamped. Lacey. "He has no idea. The files are gold." Trevor. "Copy them tonight. I'll handle the buyer." Third clip, voice memo. Her whispering. "It's in the drawer under his papers." Same flash drive. She turned to the booth. "Turn it off," she screamed, panic choking her voice. That is not part of the program. The AV tech stared, stunned. I was told, turn it off. Too late. The fourth clip showed Trevor's face. His real name. His foreign affiliations. Then, a split screen of the money transfer she authorized. Wallet ID, L. Rayner. The audience went from confused to horrified. Her boss stood near the back, arms folded, eyes burning. The room had gone silent except for the sound of her betrayal playing out in front of everyone she needed to impress. She dropped the microphone. No, this is fake. This is edited. This is... She looked around, searching for a face to blame. Her eyes found me. I was standing at the bar, glass in hand. Calm. She stumbled toward me. You did this? What the hell is wrong with you? I said nothing. The truth was already speaking, louder than she ever could. She chased me outside. The air on the rooftop terrace was sharp, cold. The music had stopped. So had the whispers. I turned as she caught up, face red, chest heaving. You set me up, she spat. You wanted to humiliate me. No, I said calmly. I wanted you to face what you became. I was scared. I was lost. He promised. He told me you would never love me again. And you believed him? I stepped closer, voice low. You believed a stranger over the man who would have died for you. She went silent. You think this is just about cheating? You were the weakest point in national security. You copied protected files and handed them to a foreign asset. You did not just cheat on me. You betrayed your country. Tears spilled down her face. I did not mean to. I never thought it would go that far. It always goes that far. I snapped. Because people like him do not target computers. They target people. Weak, greedy, reckless people who want to feel special. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. You were my world, Lacey. I said, voice colder than steel. And you threw it all away. For ego. For adrenaline. For a man who never cared about you. She covered her face, broken, shaking. I took one last look, then turned, and walked back inside. As I stepped through the doorway, I heard her whisper behind me. I still love you. But I did not stop. Because love is not enough to fix what she destroyed. And this time, she would learn that the hard way. The fallout began within hours. By midnight, 3 of her sponsors had issued public statements. We are severing ties with Lacey Briggs effective immediately due to serious breaches of trust and ethical misconduct. By morning, her Instagram was flooded, not with support, but fury. Former followers flooded her last post with comments like, "You ruined your life for clout? You deserve everything coming your way." National trader in designer heels. At 10:42 a.m., her page went dark. Deleted. Her Twitter vanished. Her LinkedIn was scrubbed. The empire she spent 6 years building collapsed in a single night, by her own hand. I did not smile. I just watched. Quiet. Steady. That afternoon, she tried calling her boss. No answer. She tried texting clients. All messages were left unread. By 4 p.m., she was trending. Not for style, not for branding advice, but for the footage that now lived on 5 different independent re-upload sites, courtesy of people at the event. No spin could save her. The woman who had once weaponized her image now had no image at all. 2 days later, she packed a suitcase. I heard the wheels click across the tile floor as she dragged it toward the front door. She paused beside the hallway mirror, stared at herself like she did not recognize what she saw. No makeup, hair in a messy knot, sleepless eyes. Then came the knock. Her mother and father stood at the door. Their faces were stone, cold. Her mother looked at her like she was something radioactive. "I just need somewhere to breathe," Lacey whispered. Her father spoke first. "You will not bring this into our home." Lacey blinked. "What?" "Dad, please. I made a mistake. I need time. I need..." Her mother cut in sharply. "You embarrassed this entire family. I was lied to. He manipulated me." "No," her father said. "You let yourself be used. You could have stopped it. You chose not to." Lacey's voice cracked. "Where am I supposed to go?" They stepped back. "That's your problem now." They left her standing there. bag in hand. No home to run to, and no one left to call. She showed up at my doorstep 2 days later, hair soaked from rain, hoodie sagging on her shoulders. She looked more like a lost teenager than the sharp-tongued woman who once bragged about outsmarting everyone. "Please," she said. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, no emotion on my face. "Trevor's gone," she continued, voice trembling. "No one will tell me where. He won't answer. His number's dead. They said you know where he is." "I do." She waited, and when I said nothing, her shoulders dropped. "Did you do something to him?" "He did something to himself," I said. "He played a game meant for grown men. Then he got burned." She leaned against the doorframe. "I feel like I'm losing my mind." "No. You are just seeing the world without your lies to protect you." "Colton," she whispered, "do you still hate me?" I exhaled slowly. "I do not hate you, Lacey. I just do not care anymore." The door closed gently in her face, and for the first time, I felt the weight start to lift. Major twist number 2. Lacey is pregnant. But the baby's father isn't Trevor, it's someone else. 3 days later, I received a certified envelope. Return address, Family Law Center. I opened it calmly. Inside, a court petition. Paternity acknowledgement. Prenatal support request. Lacey had filed it herself. Attached, medical records. Ultrasound scan. Estimated conception date. I scanned the numbers. Then I did the math. It was not Trevor's timeline. It was not mine either. The conception fell during a conference weekend 2 months prior, one where she claimed she was stuck in Atlanta due to flight delays. She had been with a third man, and she was now asking me to help support the child. I stared at the final page of the filing, where it asked me to voluntarily acknowledge paternity or contest it via DNA. I placed the file on my desk, called my lawyer. "Get the test scheduled," I said, "and prepare to bury her in court if it's not mine." He exhaled. "You think she's trying to trap you?" I laughed for the first time in weeks. "She thinks I am still the same man she fooled. But I am not." The DNA test results came in on a Thursday morning. I opened the sealed envelope in silence. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it twice. Then again. No emotion. Just confirmation. She had not only betrayed me, she had tried to attach me to a life that was not mine, to force me into a cage built from paperwork and pity. I called my lawyer immediately. "She filed based on a lie," I said. "I want countersuit filings. Fraud. Emotional manipulation. Attempted entrapment." "You will get it," he promised. I hung up and walked outside, the early sunlight bleeding across the edge of the sky. I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, and for the first time, truly felt the storm moving away. She had reached for one final chain, and I broke it. I was no longer tied to her by law, by memory, or by blood. I was free, and she was alone in the ruins she built with her own hands. Lacey received the court order on a Sunday afternoon. She tried to call me. I let it ring out. Then I sent one text. "You'll speak to my lawyer from now on." That night, she posted a shaky video to her backup Instagram account, crying, no filter, blaming me, blaming the system, blaming everything except the truth. I was groomed. I was manipulated. I made mistakes, but I do not deserve to lose everything. The comments were brutal. "You do. Take accountability. Stop playing victim." Even the trolls were more honest than she was. The next morning, she was served again. Financial records frozen. Temporary eviction notice pending. Court hearing scheduled. She had wanted leverage. Instead, she got exposed. The countdown had begun, and it was ticking fast. She showed up to court wearing beige slacks, no makeup, hair tied back. Her eyes darted like a cornered animal. She was no longer performing. She was surviving. The judge read the findings calmly. Based on DNA analysis, the petitioner is not the biological father. Counterclaim for emotional damages is now in review. Lacey stood, trembling. I was confused," she stammered. "I just wanted stability. I panicked. I thought it might be his. I did not know." The judge cut her off. "Mrs. Briggs, You attempted to secure financial support under false pretense. My lawyer leaned over to me. She just buried herself. She looked at me from across the courtroom. Eyes red, lower lip quivering. She mouthed, "Please." I blinked once, turned away. The mask had dropped, and there was nothing left underneath. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. She was not a celebrity, but the video leak had made her infamous. One question sliced through the crowd. "Do you have anything to say to your ex-husband?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She blinked against the flashbulbs. She tried again. Nothing. I watched it later on the news, replaying on a loop, her mouth moving, but her voice never landing. Just silence and stunned eyes. Dead eyes. Because the truth had caught up, and she had nothing left to give. Not an apology. Not a reason. Not even a defense. The woman who once stood on red carpets in $1,000 heels now stood on courthouse steps, silent, hollow, forgotten. I turned off the screen, lit the fire in the hearth, and poured a drink. Because finally, it was almost over. 2 weeks after the court ruling, I received another letter, this time from Lacey's attorney. Inside, a plea. She was requesting a mediation session, citing emotional distress, reputational damage, and a request for reconciliation regarding shared memories. Shared memories? I laughed under my breath. My attorney scanned the paper, face unreadable. She wants you to meet privately. She claims she does not want money. Just closure. She had closure the night the footage played. I said coldly. He looked at me. You want to ignore it? No, I replied. I will go. His brow lifted. But not for her, I said. For me. I want to look her in the eye when I tell her what happens next. And I meant every word. Because there was one last betrayal coming. This time from me. The mediation room smelled like paper and weak coffee. Lacey sat on one side of the glass table, hands folded in her lap. She looked thinner, paler. Her confidence had vanished, replaced by cautious silence. I walked in, sat down. Her lawyer began to speak, but I held up a hand. Lacey, I said. She looked at me, slowly. I am not here to forgive you. I am not here to understand. I am here to tell you something clearly, so there are no misunderstandings moving forward. Her eyes shimmered. She nodded once. You will never speak my name in public again. Not to friends. Not to press. Not on any podcast or post. You will not turn my life into your redemption arc. You are not a victim, and I am not your villain. I never meant to hurt. You meant every bit of it. I cut in. You just did not expect consequences. She blinked back tears. I stood. Closure is earned. You do not get to ask for it after you destroyed it. Then I left, and I never looked back. Weeks passed. The story died down. Lacey's name disappeared from headlines. Her accounts remained closed. Her last known address was a cheap rental apartment outside of town. But that was no longer my concern. I turned my energy towards something else, something clean. I contacted a veteran outreach nonprofit. Quietly donated all proceeds from the home sale, including every cent we made from her media deals and brand collabs. They were never mine to begin with, I told the director. He asked what name to use for the public thank you. Anonymous, I said. This is not about recognition. It is about repair. I did not want credit. I wanted peace. And giving back felt like the first step toward it. I drove by the old gym one afternoon. It was boarded up, temporarily closed for renovation. Read the sign taped to the door, but I knew better. Trevor had never returned. His name was blacklisted. His identity now erased and folded into a federal case file. Lacey's betrayal had poisoned everything she touched, even his pathetic empire. I sat in the car a moment longer, watching the empty parking lot, the sun casting long shadows over cracked pavement. This used to be the place where it all began. Their rendezvous point. Their secret. Now it was just another dead building. I drove away without music, windows down, letting the breeze carry that last bit of history away from me. When I got home, I deleted the last backup folder on my server. Footage, audio, receipts, all gone. Not because I had forgiven her, but because she no longer mattered, and her lies no longer deserved space in my life. 3 months later, I bought the cabin. It sat on 25 acres outside of Missoula, Montana. A long gravel road led to a modest wood-framed structure with a wraparound porch and a view of the valley that looked like something out of a painting. Clean, cold, honest. The first morning there, I woke up to fog rolling off the hills, coffee steaming in my hands, and the sound of pine trees swaying in silence. I had not felt that in years. Silence. Not the absence of noise, but the absence of damage. I adopted a rescue dog a week later, a Belgian Malinois named Bear. He had a scar across one ear and eyes that had seen too much. We understood each other without saying anything. We would hike the trails together. No phone, no laptop, just the sound of boots on dirt and a dog who never lied to me. People ask what peace looks like. It looks like this. Not revenge, not chaos, just air, and no one to ruin it. One evening, I sat by the fireplace with a blank notebook open in front of me. I wrote a letter to Lacey, not because she deserved one, but because I needed the final words out of me. You broke something that will never be fixed. I gave you loyalty. You gave me performance. I gave you my future. You sold it to a stranger with a gym membership. You do not exist to me anymore. Not as a lover, not as a memory, not as a regret. I hope you find peace. I hope it costs you everything. I folded the page, then tore it into 4 slow pieces, dropped them into the fire. They curled into black ash before they ever left my hand. And just like that, so did the last thread tying me to her. I started volunteering at a PTSD support group for veterans. Small room, folding chairs, strong coffee, real stories. Men who had survived roadside bombs, ambushes, dark corners of the world that civilians would never understand. One day, a new guy walked in. Young, thin, eyes twitchy, voice shaky. He said, "My wife cheated while I was deployed. Sold off my medals to pay her credit card bills. Said she thought I was dead." No one flinched. We had all heard some version of it. When he finished, he looked around the room, expecting pity. I leaned forward. "Calm. You lived through war," I said. "Now you live through truth." He blinked. I added, "One hurts your body. The other breaks your soul. But both can heal." That was the moment I realized why I came here. Not just to talk, but to help the ones who were still bleeding. Even if the wounds were invisible. A year passed. Lacey reappeared online. Quietly. A new name. A rebranded image. No mention of her past. No trace of the scandal. But the internet does not forget. Every time she tried to launch a new project, the comments found her. Is this the woman who sold classified files to a stranger? New brand. Same lies. She kept deleting, rebranding, restarting. But it never stuck. She watched others rise while she treaded water, mouth just above the surface. And me? I kept building in silence. The cabin became home. Bear grew gray at the muzzle. I kept showing up at that circle, week after week, helping men put their pieces back together. One night, I scrolled past one of her ghost accounts by accident. She had posted a quote. "Sometimes healing means learning to forgive yourself." I did not feel anything. Not pity, not rage, not even curiosity. Just a breeze through the window, and a sunrise already on its way. Her name was Natalie. I met her at a local bookstore in Missoula, a place where nobody knew my story and nobody cared. She had paint on her fingers, a scar on her chin, and eyes that did not flinch when I said nothing at all. We crossed paths 3 times before she spoke first. "You always stare at the philosophy shelf, but never pick a book," she said, smirking. I smiled. Maybe I've already lived through a few volumes. That was the beginning. We did not rush. There were no declarations, no fireworks, just presence. She never asked about Lacey. She asked about me, what I missed, what I wanted, what made the world feel real again. We would sit by the riverbank with Bear curled at our feet, the water moving slow, like time knew it did not have to hurry anymore. Love, I realized, was not supposed to be a battlefield. It was supposed to feel like this. Unforced, quiet, alive. Lacey never recovered. Not socially, not professionally, not emotionally. She still popped up every few months online under a different name, still chasing relevance like a ghost who refused to rest. But her actions followed her. Whispers turned into search results. Comments followed her like footprints in wet cement. Justice had not screamed. It had whispered, but it stayed. My story was not one of revenge. Not really. It was about balance. About rebuilding in the ashes. One truth at a time. Sometimes justice is not a courtroom win or a public downfall. Sometimes it is the quiet life you get to live while they wake up every day wishing they had done things differently. That was my justice. That was my freedom. A letter arrived addressed to my cabin. No return address. Inside, a single photo, Lacey, sitting alone at a cafe table, older now, eyes down, no ring. And a note. She looked sad. Thought you should know. I burned it without a second thought. Because her sadness was not my concern. Hers was the path she paved. And I was no longer walking it. I had peace. I had love. I had days without lies, nights without nightmares, and a quiet that felt earned. I rebuilt a life not to replace the old one, but to finally live. The sun came up over the mountain ridge. Bear was snoring softly on the porch. Natalie poured 2 mugs of coffee and sat beside me, our knees touching gently. I looked out across the trees. The air smelled like pine and ash and something new. Not everything broken has to be mourned. Some things break because they were never built right. I survived betrayal. I faced the worst kind of war, the one inside your own home. But I came out the other side. Wiser, stronger, and free. So here's my question for you watching this now. If someone betrayed you that deeply, would you want revenge? Or would you want peace? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I want to hear your story. And hey, if this hit home, if it made you feel something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell. Because next time, we are diving into another brutal betrayal, another epic fall, and a revenge story you will never forget. Until then, take care of your heart. And always remember, sometimes the most savage revenge is living better without them.